Hello and welcome friends. In Unit 5, we are taking up press communication for discussion, and you would remember that in our last session we talked about press communication and what is the basic objective behind press communication, and then we talked about how the press communications sent by organizations, business organizations, or at times by governments also, they are major sources of revenue for the press, for the newspapers, for the print media. And we also talked about the different types of press communication that are generally used. Right? Now today is the time for us to discuss the invitation for tenders, or invitation for bids, or invitation for quotations. So this is going to be our first discussion. I hope you remember that tenders and bids and quotations are different terms which can be used interchangeably, and today we will be taking up in detail how to invite tenders, bids, quotations. And naturally, for inviting tenders or bids or quotations, we will have to put out some information in the press, in the print media, so that wider audience is able to access it, and then we may have quotations. Right? Now, just to give you an idea why actually we use this kind of press communication, please understand, whenever organizations purchase in large volume, and this is most often something which happens most often with the business organizations in the government sector, which means government organizations, as well as many a times in private sector organizations also, whenever they are purchasing in large volumes, they go for tenders. Right? Now, we need to understand what tenders are. Tender is basically a document which is actually supplied by a prospective supplier. Right? A prospective supplier is one who wants to supply some items that an organization requires. So that particular individual, his company is the prospective supplier. But they will tell us in detail as to what is the specification of the items that they are supplying and what is the price that they would charge. Right? So this is what actually happens in a tender. Right? So what will happen? I'll give you another example. For example, supposing government degree college wants to purchase some books. Let's say we have got a budget of rupees 5 lakh and we want to purchase some books. Now we cannot go and buy the books from any supplier we want, any supplier we like. What we will have to do is, we will have to first of all invite the tenders from the prospective suppliers, from the publishers. So we will publish such an invitation in newspaper, and this invitation will mention that we need these books, right? And what is the number of units that we require for a particular title. So for example, marketing management written by Kotler is required and 14 copies, or business communication book written by so and so and 30 copies. So this is the invitation for tender which we will publish in the newspaper. Now the suppliers, whosoever are there, they would go through this information. They would understand that government degree college wants to purchase some books. Now they will give us their offer as to by which particular date they would be able to supply these books, what is the price that they will charge, are they going to give us some discount, are they going to give us some additional service. This is what they will mention. And they will mention this in a document which would be known as a tender or a bid or a quotation. In Hindi it is known as I am not able to recall the word. I'll let you know once I recall. So these are called tenders, bids, quotation. The Hindi word is nivida. Right? Ya boli lagayenge. So they will give us their offer as to what price they will charge, what discount they will give, by which date they would supply. Now, once we receive these offers from, let's say, 10-15 suppliers in and around Pithoragarh, maybe some supplier in Delhi also might want to furnish this tender document, and then we will compare all the tender documents and we'll purchase from the supplier who is willing to supply the books to us at the minimum price. So this is the objective behind inviting tenders. We want to get a good quality product at minimum prices, minimum possible prices. That is why generally organizations invite tenders or bids या बोलियां या quotations or निविदाएं from the prospective suppliers. Is that fine? Right. So as I mentioned, the objective is to extract the best price. Now let us have a look at a format of a tender. Right. So you can have a look at this particular format. Now this particular tender has been issued by this particular department, right? And that is why the name figures at the top. What you have to do now is just pause this video, go through the content so that you are able to understand the forthcoming discussion. Just pause the video here, go through the content, right? Okay, done. Understood the content. Now let us start discussing what you have put here. Now, as I said, the first thing that you have mentioned at the top, you have to mention at the top is the department's name or the name of the organization which is inviting the tenders along with the contact details. So Department of Business Administration at the Degree College Pithoragarh is actually inviting these tenders. That's why had this tender been invited by the college and not by a particular department, that instead of Department of Business Administration we would have seen only Lakshman Singh Meher Government PG College Pithoragarh. Is that okay? Right? So the name of organization which is inviting the tender is put at the top along with contact details. Now have a look at the contact details here. The phone number has been given, the website address has been given, and the email ID has also been given along with the fax number. Now, why is this given? Because the person who will respond to these tenders or the person who will want to file tenders or file bids will do that using these details over here. So he may either send the tender through email or might come all the way down to the college and submit the tender physically, or he may look for a link in the website to submit the tender. Is that okay? Now, second thing, title. I hope you remember in notice, in circular also there was a title at the top, even in the memorandums also. So now this is the title, and the title is invitation for bids, right? Have a look at date. Now watch that this is the date on which the invitation for tender has been released. So this is the date. Then we have got the reference numbers, right? So for every document we generally have reference numbers. You have seen this in the case of circulars and letters also. This reference number is so that we can identify a particular document just by looking at the reference number. So probably this reference number DBA stands for Department of Business Administration, 2021 stands for the year in which the document is being released, and quotation is what kind of document is being released. So quotation 012. Is that fine? So this is a request for quotation, and this is the 12th number of request. Probably this is what we can understand from this reference number. So we can use this reference number to refer to a particular document at a later point of time also. And that is why we have got these reference numbers. Now, details of the intended purchase. Now this is the main body of the invitation of tender, invitation for tenders, and this is the detail of intended purchase. So what we want to purchase, we are giving full details. For example, have a look at this, chairs S type. So the name of item is chairs S type, and then we have specified also 59 into 59 to 69 centimeter. Basically we are talking about length, breadth and height. Back and armrest. Armrest is that portion of the chair on which you rest your arm. Likewise, backrest is where you can rest your back. There are chairs with a back and without a back also. And wooden, we are saying it, we don't want plastic chairs with fabric upholstery. Upholstery means the cover or the cushion on the seat. It is made up of fabric. Why are we being so specific when we are inviting tenders for supply of chairs? The reason is very simple. Because chairs or any equipment may come in different variations. There could be a plastic chair also, which might cost just rupees 300. There could be a proper leather chair with leather upholstery, wooden chair with leather upholstery, upmarket kind of chair which might be as costly as 3,000, 5,000 rupees also, and there can be n number of variations in between. But we want to make it very clear to our supplier as to what particular kind of chair do we want, or what particular kind of equipment do we want, right? I hope you recall our discussions which we have had earlier. I remember talking about a particular letter in which we were purchasing some items. I hope you remember. That was in unit 3, and it was a letter which was sent by Government of India to a prospective supplier, and the government wanted to purchase oxygen concentrators. There also specific details of the model which is required were mentioned. Likewise, in memorandum also, if you recall, you can go back to that particular video lecture also. In memorandum also, when one particular department, the production department, requested supply chain department for wheel covers, they gave the full specification in terms of a item code. The item code will be different for different kinds of wheel cover, and this will give a clear-cut idea to whosoever the supplier is that what exactly is it that the prospective customer wants, right? So that is why we have to give complete specification here. Now I hope you understand that this would cost maybe around 700-800 rupees. Had it been just a plastic chair, it would have cost maybe 250 rupees a unit. So if I had not specified this, what would my prospective supplier have done? He would have quoted a price of a plastic chair which would have been only 250 rupees, and since this would have been the lowest price, I would have placed the order with him, and probably then he would have supplied me the plastic chairs. But what I wanted was these kind of chairs. So that is why you have to give complete specification, right? And then we are also mentioning the quantity. What exactly is the quantity that we are looking to buy? Then again, have a look at the computer table. Again, the specification has been given, and then the quantity has also been specified, right? And now have a look at the body, right? Department of Business Administration at LSMG PGC Pithoragarh intends to purchase the following furniture items, right? Now, quotations are invited from interested suppliers in sealed envelope by May 20, 2021. So basically, we've given this prospective supplier around 3 weeks to send in their quotations. Alternatively, the quotations can also be submitted through the website. That's why the website address has been given here as well as here also. So it is for the supplier to decide whether he is going to physically send in the quotation through post or whether he is going to apply through the website, right? Now one more thing has been mentioned. Again, whether or not you mention this, that is your discretion, and depending on the requirement of the organization, preference would be given to the supplier committing to earlier delivery. So we are also saying that apart from the prices that you quote and the quality that you quote, we are also going to decide based on the delivery schedule. We want a very fast delivery. So if all other things are equal, the supplier who is able to deliver the product earlier would be given the contract. This is what we have mentioned because this probably might be required in the organization. Fine. So this is what we have mentioned here. And now, name and designation of the issuer. Lakwinder Narula, in charge, DBA. Is that fine? So this is how you publish such invitation for tenders or invitation for bids or invitation for quotations in the newspaper. Now this would be sent to newspapers, different newspapers, and then they would publish it, and I will of course have to pay them something for publishing this invitation for tender, invitation for bids. Fine. So this is how the things work, and then what will happen, the prospective suppliers will go through it. They will decide whether or not they can supply these items, chairs as type and computer table, and whether they can supply the specification that has been mentioned here, this one, and then whether they can supply these many quantities, and then if they think they can, they will quote a price and they will send in the quotation, and I'll go for the most economical where the price quoted is the lowest. I'll go for that particular quotation and I'll place the order with that particular supplier. Of course, the delivery schedule is also important. Is that fine? So this is how things are generally bought in the business world, and also this is something which is very routine for government organizations. Is that fine? Now please understand, there is one more term which I have not discussed as of now: e-tenders. Now what do we mean by e-tenders? Many a times the whole work of issuing a tender is not done through a newspaper. What we do is we might come up with a tender document on our website itself. Now that is an example of invitation for bids, electronic invitation for bids, and the supplier would not have to submit a paper copy of the tender. He would simply enter the details and he would apply through the website. So this is an example of e-tender. This will speed up the whole process, right? So these are known as e-tenders. Just like we have a email version of a mail, we have e-tender version of a tender. Is that fine? And in fact, government has come up with a portal where e-tendering would take place, because government is a big consumer. It purchases in large bulk volumes. Government purchases so many things. College also is part of the government. We are a government college, so we also purchase many equipments, and all these equipments would be considered purchased by the government. So for purchases made by government, the government has come up with this kind of online facility wherein the prospective supplier can submit their e-tenders electronically. Fine. So thank you very much for your time. With this we end the session here, and in the next session that we'll have, we'll talk about the press releases. Thank you very much.